Alrighty, welcome to episode 67 of Before the Battle. My name is Nick Baldwin of BloodYelbow.com. I'm joined as always by Jed Meshew of MMAfighting.com. Wesley Riddle of MMAsucker.com is not here. He is at some sort of two-day... Oh, I can hear myself. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I'll get rid of that, kill that. Wesley Riddle is at some sort of two-day conference in Washington, D.C. Hopefully he's not too affected by any riots going on thanks to Washington's choke once again last night in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Ruining my bracket. Just a little hockey talk right off the bat. Jed, though, you are here. How's it going?
It's good. Atlanta no longer has a hockey team, and the Hawks. Yep, and the Hawks are awful. So I haven't had any real rooting interest in quite some time. Though I will say, I feel bad for Caps fans in general.
Except for Luke Thomas, I assume.
Exactly, that's where I was going with this. I don't hate that there's a little bit of a dagger going into Luke Thomas. Not upset about that because things are working out for him in the soccer world, so he shouldn't get to win both soccer and hockey. And frankly, he had a bad basketball night too. So I'm not.
Yeah, I can't touch on the soccer and basketball all that much. For me, I'm not interested in soccer one bit, as I think I said on the MMA Circus a bit ago. And basketball, I like, but I just don't watch. So yeah, I guess. Congratulations to Luke Thomas for half being okay and not, being completely disappointed. But, I was rooting for Washington and the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, those two games put me in such a bad mood last night. I had Edmonton and Washington in the finals. I don't know if you made a bracket or not, but those were my two finalists, and both got eliminated in Game 7 last night. It can't go much wrong. But we are not here to talk about hockey or soccer or basketball or even baseball.
You sure? We can just change this. I'm not super versed on hockey, but I usually watch the playoffs.
Puck Drops is the new name of the show.
I like it. I'm for it.
It's actually not a bad name, so kudos to me for thinking of that. Right. Under pressure. Coming up with the creative names here. But anyways, this is Before the Battle. And, maybe Steve Bosse would like to talk about how battles do happen inside or on the hockey rink. But anyways, mixed martial arts is what we're going to talk about. The UFC specifically. UFC 211, their return, the UFC's return. They've been on a break for 3 weeks, I believe it was. 3 weeks. This weekend will be Cub Swanson and Artem Lobov, which was 3 weeks ago. That was the last event, so we've had a bit of a break. No Bellator since then. Of course, no World Series of Fighting. I don't think we've had a Titan card. We really haven't had that much. We've had, numerous LFA cards, a few local stuff, a lot of Russian shows. But I'm really looking forward to this card. One, the biggest card of the year. And I said that for UFC 209, but this time I mean it. This time, the co-main event.
209 was the biggest card of the year until Habib pulled out, and even still, this card is better than 209.
Oh yeah,
even if Habib had what for my money is the second best fight that can be made in professional fighting.
Yes,
today.
Knock on wood that the co-main event doesn't fall apart. Come tomorrow, weigh-in day. And so fingers are crossed, but we already had one cancellation. This card didn't go unscathed completely. But thankfully, it wasn't, the heavyweight main event or Damian Maia, Jorge Masvidal, or even Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight or anything like that. Thankfully, maybe not thankfully. Henry Cejudo versus Sergio Pettis, I actually was a bit intrigued by, but definitely not exactly the people's main event as one Ariel Helwani would say. But anyways, UFC 211, can't wait for this card. Let's dive right in. We'll start.
Excuse me, sir. We've got housekeeping.
Oh, we do.
You always skip over the housekeeping, and it's important because though we're short one member and it's just a duo this week, shout out Wes Riddle. Can't wait to have. What you should have done is you should have just gotten Andrew Lawrence in here since I took over for him on your show and basically did his job. He could do us a solid and come in and jump on the third. Give Andrew the Clown Kid a shout. See if he can tap on in real quick here. while I go over our most recent results. Like you said, the last event was UFC Nashville. I happened to be in attendance. Super fun. Nashville's a great city. It was raining cats and dogs, which was shitty, but the fights were pretty good, and everything else around them was pretty good. As far as our picks go, the first time since I've joined the cast of this illustrious show, all three of us had the exact same record. Now, remember, it's a while back, but all three of us did not pick the same people. We just ended up with 9-4 records all down the line. For me, I missed, or all three of us did miss on the Matt Schnell pick. All three of us missed on the Jessica Penne pick. I missed on Sam Alvey. I thought he was going to Tiz. You and Wes both predicted that the Talasili Tiz would win correctly. But on the very next fight, you and Wes, despite me strongly arguing against, both picked Jake Ellenberger. And I tried to warn you. I tried to say, guys, y'all are insane. Mike Perry's going to blow him up. And you just wouldn't listen to reason. And then lo and behold, Mike Perry blew him up. So I got that one back. I missed on Joe Lozon. I thought he would beat Stevie Ray. And for 5 minutes, I felt super good about my choice. Stevie Ray obviously staged a tremendous comeback, put together a 10-8 round in the third, and won the fight. Both you and Wes got that correct. What else? You, Nick, missed the Dustin Ortiz, Brandon Moreno fight. I skipped over that by accident. Me and Wes both picked Brandon Moreno. Obviously, Moreno had an outstanding showcase. And then Wes picked Sidney Dandois for no discernible reason to beat Alexis Davis. And obviously he came up short there. As far as our performance of the night bonuses and our fight of the night predictions, I picked Iaquinta Sanchez, Wes picked Lozon, Stevie Ray, and you picked Ellenberger Perry. All three of us were incorrect. Fight of the night went to Swanson Lobov, which was pretty surprising, I think, for everybody. And then performance of the night bonuses, I win that particular battle because I said Mike Perry was going to get one. He ended up getting one for what, for my money, is the front runner for KO of the year so far. And then all three of us predicted Cub Swanson would get one. Obviously he didn't. He did get fight of the night. Wes said, and you and Wes both agreed that John Dotson would get a performance bonus. Obviously, John Dotson didn't have any type of a performance worth getting a bonus for. So that's that. Oh, and then finally, DraftKings. You just give me the belt forever, in perpetuity, it seems. With a score of 486 points, my team was successful. Swanson, Perry, Lozon, Moreno, Penne, Alvey. Alvey let me down a little bit, but Swanson and Perry put together huge performances. Lozon, even in a losing effort, put up a lot of points. And Brandon Moreno obviously got a lot of points too. So you came in second this week, though, Nick.
Wow.
Score of 348 points. Sanchez really hurt you because Sanchez literally landed 4 punches in the course of 90 seconds before he got his doors blown off by Al Iaquinta. So he only came up with 2 points. Sanchez hurt you, and Jake Ellenberger hurt you as well. And then bringing up the rear, Wes Riddle, 252.5 points. So that's the scoreboard. I remain not undefeated, but close to undefeated in the DraftKings competition. All three of us are we're sharing a belt in a fatal three-way tag, or not a tag match, I guess, a three-man match. We are all squared up. So we move on to this week.
Alrighty. Well, Andrew Lawrence, he has a full-time job. He has bills to pay. He has people to feed. He can't join us. But that would be some fun. That would be really, really entertaining to have Jed Meshew and Andrew the Clam Kid Lawrence on the same show after you just shit-talked him basically right off the MMA circus.
Should I? I'm still frankly a little upset that somehow I was ousted. I staged a coup to take over the MMA circus, and somehow still, despite a very successful coup, I'll say, I was somehow kicked out this week. Pretty unhappy. I think the fans are going to let you know that it's a bad choice, though.
Well, it's time to move on to the Three Amigos.
That's next in the crosshairs. I've been telling Mookie for weeks now. Watch his back. I'm coming for you, Mook. I'm coming for you.
Eventually, I'm going to find myself hosting The Naked Truth.
No,
karma's a bitch. Yeah, everything goes full circle.
I've said this many times. Nobody else can host the Naked Truth because working with the Naked Gambler it's an impossible task that nobody but me has the time or the inclination or the schedule to deal with. He's just a petulant child. It's really
you seem to be describing me.
No, you're an actual child. He's an infant. There's a difference. But enough of this banter. We should move on because 211 is a sensational card, best of the year. And despite there only being two of us, I think we have a lot to talk about today.
We do. So with that, let's kick things off on the UFC Fight Pass early prelim card. First fight of the night, we got Joaquim's Christensen taking on, I'm going to butcher this, Gazimurad Antigulov. That was actually better than I did earlier this week on the MMA Circus. But probably butchered both. Anyways, heavyweight matchup. We got the Russian versus the Denmark native. Who do you got here?
Look, this is not going to be a fight that raises anybody's blood up too excited. Like, oh yeah, Joaquin Christensen's fighting, woo! But I think it's a pretty good fight, and the odds are long here. Joaquin Christensen is a plus 300 favorite. It means he's like, what's that, like 3-1. And Tigilov's like a 3-1 favorite then.
Yeah.
So like that's a heavy favorite, but I think the fight's way closer than that. Christensen's a big guy. He's a well-rounded light heavyweight. He's active, keeps a high pace, a consistent jab. He's not a good like defensive striker by any stretch of the imagination at all. But he does a lot of other things pretty well. And the other end of that, like Antigulov's, he's a powerful guy. He's short, stocky, well built. Quick on his feet, despite being like, you look at him, you wouldn't think that he's going to be that sort of deft, but he is. He's a Russian master of sport and wrestling, which is a pretty high accomplishment. Russia is one of the premier wrestling nations in the world. And he can grind in the clinch, work a single leg, get on top, and then just wear people down. Christensen's last fight was over Bohan Mihailovic, who's sort of a similar body type to Gadzimurad Antigulov. I think I said that right. They're same sort of body type, and Christensen just kind of did a really good job of navigating that. He has an enormous reach advantage, 6-inch reach advantage here, and he kind of stayed on the outside, pot shotted a bunch, was able to defend on the inside. I think he can maybe replicate a lot of that here, but at the same time, Antigulov is a world better than Mihailovic. So I think he can pressure more effectively than Mihailovic did. I think he's a better striker in general. Like he's better at landing his punches, a little more power. So I do think he's going to be able to get inside of Christensen's reach, pressure him up against the cage, grind enough. But I wouldn't be surprised if Christensen really made him work for it and won a round. I think it's going to be a close fight. I'm picking Antigulov by decision. So yeah, that's my take on it. What about you? How are you feeling on this one, Nick?
Well, I mean, this is one where it's like, okay, let's just get through the first few fights of the night and get to the good stuff. But hey, I actually do see it being, a good start tonight. Despite what I just said, I do see it ending fairly early, and I like the Russian here. I like him quite a bit. I'm not actually. I like the lines. I think he is quite a bit better than Christensen overall. I think he deserves that minus 300 line-ish. I mean, you want to go, minus 50, give or take. Big, okay, fair enough. I was super impressed with Antigulov in his debut not too long ago. He took on Marcos Rogero de Lima, who, yes, he's known to gas and not the best submission defense, and it was a kind of a weird submission. I remember Antigulov, though, made a lot of nice adjustments for, I believe, what was a guillotine win there. I like his submission abilities. I'm not so into Christensen's defense on the mat. I think that's what will, give the fight to Antigulov. I called this a heavyweight matchup, just introducing them. It's actually at light heavyweight, so just a quick correction there. Christensen, he's probably maybe better than Antigulov on the feet, and he has the reach advantage as you said, 76 inches to 70. That's pretty big. So if he can keep Antigulov off of him, he could actually win this fight. But I think Antigulov is going to be all over him right from the opening bell. Give me Antigulov here by first round submission. And Christensen is 38. Even for heavyweight, that's getting up there. Antigulov is only 30, so big age difference there.
Again, this is light heavyweight.
Jesus, light heavyweight. I mean, Antigulov looks like heavyweight, so that's why I'm saying that. But yes, even for light heavyweight, that's pretty damn old. So I like Antigulov quite a bit here. Next up, we got Gabriel Benitez, Mowgli, taking on Enrique Barzola El Fuerte. Barzola won Tough Latin America 2 was it? Or no, Tough Brazil. No,
let me look. No, tough Latin America 2.
Yeah, that's it. That was the Kelvin Gastelum New Magny card back in November 2015. Who do you like in this featherweight fight?
Well, for posterity's sake, I will say. Oh, hold on, I dropped something. Bad radio. For posterity's sake, I will say Wes Riddle Santos are his picks. He is picking Antigulov as well, so it's a clean sweep for Antigulov.
I'm forgetting everything. Don't worry. On this show.
Look, as we've established, I'm a superior podcaster. I've got this. It's why I'm taking over your show. It's why I'm coming for Three Amigos. I stay on point. So yeah, all three of us picked Antigulov. I imagine we're going to have some dissension here because I am actually going to pick Enrique Barzola here. He is the betting underdog last I checked. Gabriel Benitez, he's also a Tough Latin America product. I don't recall what season he came out of, and he trains out of AKA, which is like obviously a well-respected camp. He's a southpaw. He's a striker. He likes to work at range. He sets the distance with kicks. He got a really good inside leg kick. That's really effective against orthodox fighters because he's a southpaw, so he can just chop that inside leg out, keep that distance. He's got a good counter left hand. He works the body pretty well. He's a crisp striker. Barzola is also a striker, but I think he's more athletic. I think he's got more tools in that game. He throws a really active jab. He works in combination. Every once in a while, he'll throw like a jumping knee or a spinning attack, something exciting like that. But the difference for me here is that Barzola also has a potent wrestling game. I think it's a close one. I don't want to lead you astray here because Barzola is going to consent to fight at range, and at range, Benitez is going to be effective. Barzola isn't going to like really pressure him too much or kind of force him out of the areas he want to be in. But at the same time, I do think Benitez is definitely very susceptible to a jab. Barzola has an active one. And I think Barzola's wrestling he's not a great control artist on the ground, but he's good at mixing in takedowns. He's athletic. He can fire off a shot and successfully get them down and, make somebody work, keep them guessing. And so I do think that that's going to be the difference here. That'll keep Benitez on his toes enough, kind of stifle Benitez's counterattack some. I think it's going to be a back and forth affair, sort of like the first fight on this card. I think it's going to be close, but I do like Barzola to win more portions of the fight and, take a close decision here.
I'm going the other way. I like Gabriel Benitez quite a bit. I mean, Barzola, I'm not, I don't know. I feel like I've missed what seems to be all of his fights. I definitely have seen him fight for sure. The Chris Avila fight last time out and his tough win. And I believe the one I missed was the Bocniak, but fight, which most people scored for Barzola. Pretty much everybody that apparently was quite the awful decision. So Barzola should be 3-0 in the UFC. Impressive record on paper, but I just don't, I get the sense where he doesn't go for it enough. He's not. He doesn't put everything together well enough. Benitez, he's training at AKA, one of the best gyms in the world for mixed martial arts, and I think he's a crisper guy on the feet. I think he might be a little bit quicker. He's fought the better competition, coming off a win over Sam Cecilia. He has been out for a little while. That Cecilia fight seemed to be quite some time. Let me just check when that was. Sometime last year, September 2016. Not a huge layoff, but worth noting, I guess. That was actually a submission win. So, Benitez, he has a bit of a reach advantage. It seems like he's going to be able to control on the feet quite a bit. I think at range, he has a lot of success. He throws some funky stuff as well. Barzola, he does have a wrestling game, but Benitez not the best takedown defense. So if you're going to go Barzola, I think his best bet is probably actually wrestling Benitez. So that is a possibility, but I'm going to hope as a Benitez backer that Benitez is able to keep it standing. I do think he will. I think he'll outpoint Barzola for a unanimous decision win. I don't think it'll be a split. I think it's wide enough to avoid that split decision. Barzola, not too liked by the judges either. That quite the maybe robbery, whatever you want to call it. So keep an eye out for that. Even if Barzola seems to be winning 29-28, could go to Benitez. We'll see. But I do got Benitez here by decision. Next up, we got a heavyweight fight, not light heavyweight fight between Chase, the Vanilla Gorilla Sherman, taking on newcomer Rashad Coulter, the Daywalker. Sherman is 9-3, 0-2 in the UFC. Coulter, as I said, making his debut, he's 8-1 as a pro. Jed, who do you got?
Well, once again, I will inform our listeners. Wes Riddle is also backing Barzola by decision, so it's 2-1 there. Me and Wes on Barzola. You're on Benitez. I can totally see you winning that. So we'll see how it goes. But moving on to our next battle. This one, I feel we talked about this, I think, before we went on air. I don't feel super confident in a lot of my picks on this card. I think it's not a card where I don't know what's going to happen per se, but I think that most of the fights seem like they're pretty obviously two sort of outcomes are coming out of this. Like it's either going to be this or this, and it's hard for me to be confident that it's going to be one way versus the other. And both of the first two fights are very close. This fight is the opposite of all of that, though, because I don't know what's going to happen here because all the unknowns. Like Rashad Coulter is coming in on a very short notice. I think he got brought in. This was all sort of a weird thing, like a sort of round robin. Lots of people in this particular fight changed, but it ends up Coulter came in on like less than a week's notice as far as I'm concerned. Didn't he get a week? Yeah, like about a week. He got the call sometime late last week.
Yeah.
And he's beaten nobody. Like his record is, I didn't do the math, but I think if you added up the combined record of people he's fought, you might get them towards, like it might be 500, like 50-50. It is just, he's beaten nobody really of any merit or worth. So this is a big step up in competition for him, but he is an athletic guy. He's a powerful athlete, he's a big power puncher, power wrestler, really good, vicious knees in close, great killer instinct. And he's going to be a better athlete than Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman, is a pretty decent athlete though. He's light on his feet for heavyweight. He likes to box. He likes to work in the pocket. He's decent kicks at range. I'm picking Coulter here, despite the short notice and the fact that he's beaten nobody, purely because Chase Sherman is just a defensive disaster. Like he is just, it's hard for me to put how bad he is defensively into words because he gets hit by every punch that is thrown at him. Like every punch, even when he's winning, like the Justin Ledet fight, he got marked up by Justin Ledet. He ended up winning on volume and activity, but he got marked up there. I think Walt Harris landed every single punch that he threw. I'm not looking at the fight metrics, but I'm pretty confident Walt Harris' connection percentage is like 100% in that fight. And I think Walt Harris is a more established fighter than Rashad Coulter, but I do think that they do something similarly. They're both accurate punchers with big, heavy strikes. And Walt Harris put Chase Sherman on blast. I kind of think Rashad Coulter is going to do the same. He's going to land a really big punch. Sherman's going to get wobbled, and I suspect Coulter will land like some vicious knees on the follow-up, and that's the ball game. I'm going Rashad Coulter by KO in the second round, maybe late in the first. But to Sherman's credit, as bad as he is defensively, really durable guy, tough, gritty contender in there. So that's my pick. It could totally be that Rashad Coulter comes in. He's out of, he's not out of shape, but he didn't have a camp.
He's out of fight shape.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't have a camp. He gets tired. He's an explosive athlete who mows through people. So he puts a salvo out. Chase Sherman's a tough dude. He lasts through and then beats up Coulter for the rest of the fight. But I'm picking Coulter.
Admittedly, you know more about Coulter than I do. I didn't do my research on this one guy. Better
For
things
shame.
to focus on. But this is a blend matchup. I mean, it's a heavyweight. It's a low level heavyweight matchup, and as I always say, I get these completely wrong. I pick one guy by decision, and the other guy wins by knockout, and vice versa. So don't trust me on this. And another reason not to trust me is that I've picked Jay Sherman in both of his bouts, and he's lost both of them fairly one-sidedly. The first fight, a little back and forth, but still lost to Ledet, as you mentioned in his debut. I am on Jay Sherman once again here. After this fight, if he loses, I probably won't be picking another Sherman fight. He'll probably get the release, not to, just to be blunt about it. But if he does stick around, I probably wouldn't be on the Sherman train. But I am here. There's less question marks around him and his game than there are around Coulter. Coulter coming up, stepping up on very short notice, as we both mentioned. It was weird because there was supposed to be two Russian guys, I believe, were supposed to fight, and then Sherman stepped up for one, and the other guy just got hurt, and now Coulter here. So neither of these two fighters were even supposed to be on the card, but Sherman has known about this fight for longer than Coulter has, of course. That might play a difference at heavyweight. Could Coulter go the distance? Maybe. I'm not too sure what his cardio is like, but stepping up on 7 days' notice can't be fantastic. Sherman, he's a gritty guy. He likes to get in there and bang. Unfortunately for him, he just has really, really bad defense, as you said, and gets hit a lot. But I'm going to go Sherman. I mean, maybe he lands something. Maybe he just outpoints him. It's very possible. But I'll go Chase Sherman here by, I don't even know. I'll say decision. So
for the record, you referenced it, but this fight was originally supposed to be Georgia Stanho versus Dmitry Poberz.
Right. So actually, where is Danho from?
Danho got injured. I think Danho's like I want to say he's like a Finnish, but that can't be right? Hold on. No, he's Syrian. I just looked him up. He's Syrian.
Okay.
Right. But yeah, so it's supposed to be Danho versus Poberzet. And then Danho got injured, and then Poberzet's got hurt. So yeah, there's that. Because I'm already going, so let's just do it. Our esteemed colleague Wes Riddle has picked who did he pick in this one? He picked Rashad Coulter by KO in the second round, and that can move us right on down the line to I think the first fight that's like good by traditional standards on the card, at least because it contains a really good fighter. Jessica Aguilar, one time the number one strawweight in the world, is taking on Courtney Casey. I'm gonna mix the order up because it gets tiresome always going first.
Real quick, I just want to change my pick slightly. I said Sherman by decision. I'll actually go late TKO. Go on.
So just want to mix it up because it's tiresome for me to always go first and then you not to ever lead our charge. So why don't you lead us off, Nick? Tell me your thoughts on Jessica Aguilar versus Courtney Casey.
You know what? I have absolutely no idea because there are so many question marks. And I feel like this one is a tougher fight to pick than the others or some of the others. And I feel that may be why you want me to go first, opposed to, say, leading off the main event or co-main event.
No.
I'm going to go Jessica Aguilar. I don't really know why, because she is coming off a pretty long layoff. I mean, her last fight was her debut August 1st of 2015 that Ronda Rousey was still a women's bantamweight champion. She defended her title for the last time that night. Later in the evening, Gadeha Aguilar was not the co-main. No, it was first fight of the main card. Maybe doesn't really matter. But she lost to Gadeha. Didn't look terrible, but a fairly decisive decision win for the Brazilian Claudia Gadeha. Aguilar, if she's improved, if she's not going to suffer from ring rust, I think she is a better fighter than Courtney Casey. But Courtney Casey has proved me wrong so freaking much. I am god awful at picking Courtney Casey fights. I'm going to pull up her record and go through every Courtney Casey UFC fight and tell you guys how I saw that fight going. So Courtney Casey makes her debut against Joanna Calderwood. I picked Casey. She fights Seohee Ham. I might have gotten that right. I don't know. No, that's probably wrong. Anyways,
there's no way you picked Seohee Ham. There's no way you picked Seohee Ham.
Probably not. No, I did pick Casey. That's right. Then she fights Christina Stansu. I picked Stansu. Then she fights Marcos. I picked Marcos. And then the one I got right was the obvious one. She lost to Claudia Gadelha. So she's 2-3 in the UFC. Actually looked fairly good. That Marcos win.
I was going to say, obvious though, but she way outperformed expectations in that fight.
Yes, she did. So maybe, Courtney Casey's getting better. And, no shame in losing to Gadelha. Aguilar also did as well, of course. I don't know. This is such a bizarre matchup because so many question marks. Casey is arguably more well-rounded. She has a number of submissions under her belt. She also has, a few TKO finishes. She's the heavier puncher than Aguilar. I think Aguilar, she's the veteran. I think her savvy will come into play. She is quite a bit smaller, actually. Casey is 3 inches taller. 4-inch reach advantage. You know what? I'm considering going Casey cast iron, but Jessica Aguilar, I'll pick her, and by decision, I think it'll be a split decision, super close. Don't play money on this fight.
I am going the opposite here. So that's exciting. Look, Jessica Aguilar was 1 point a very good fighter. She won. I mean, I won't say 1 point. She is a good fighter. Like I said earlier, at one point she was the #1 strawweight in the world. Although I've always felt that was kind of bullshit, because she did never deserve to beat Megumi Fuji. She has 2 wins over her. One of them she straight up should have lost on the scorecards, and the other one should have been a no contest. But such is the way of MMA. So yeah. But at the same time, look, she's a good fighter. She's decently well-rounded. She's developed her striking a lot more over the years. But her bread and butter is her grappling. She's a really good wrestler. One of the better ones in the division. And she takes people down top and controls them on top. That's really the bulk of her game. Casey is a pretty big strawweight. Like you said, she's got 4 inches of height, 4 inches of reach. She's athletic. She doesn't have the best record, but she stumbled early. She's been improving a lot. Like we were talking about, Claudia Gadelha is the consensus #2 fighter in the strawweight division at this point. Like she's beaten almost everybody that there is to beat except for Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and there's a very good argument that she beat Joanna in their first fight. And Courtney Casey was thrown to her basically to get her ass beat as a rebuilding fight for Gadelha, and she didn't. Like, she lost, but she was competitive. She was in there because she's been improving a lot. She uses her gifts. She uses her footwork. She uses a long jab to work distance. And because she's so big, she is a strong bull in the clinch. My biggest issue, the fundamental reason I'm picking Casey here is Aguilar has been off like 2 years. That's a really long time. She's coming off a torn ACL. Her game was built around, wrestling and stuff. So I'm not sure how the ACL injury is going to affect her. She's going up against a younger fighter, a better athlete, a much bigger fighter, who's been active, who competed against one of the best fighters in the world and held her own. If Aguilar comes out and takes Casey down, Casey's still not like a great defensive wrestler. For as far as like shot takedowns go, she's still pretty poor in that area. Yeah, I won't be surprised, but I'm banking on Casey to have improved her wrestling, to know this is the thing that I need to be aware of and defend. And Aguilar has been declining anyway, plus all the time off. I think everything just coalesces pretty well for Casey here. Pick is Casey by unanimous decision.
Well, you almost convinced me. I'm sticking with Aguilar, but, Casey, as I said, could very well win this fight. As you said, younger fighter, stronger, better striker, and hasn't been off for 2 years and is getting better. So I'm going Aguilar, but...
Well, you're not alone. Wes Whittle also picked Jessica Aguilar. Did he pick her? What did he pick her by? He picked her by decision. So you're in good company.
Well, that's arguable. Moving on. We move on to a fight that no one is talking about. I've seen no talk surrounding this fight, and that's not surprising. But I do think it is worth talking about just because this could actually be a really, really fun fight. Marco Polo Reyes taking on James Vick. Now, Vick, most people know. Some people could be unfamiliar with Marco Polo Reyes, but then when I say think back to, when was it? Last year or 2015? I forget. The fight with Dong Hun Kim, the little Dong, the not the stun gun, the other one. That was an all-out war. That was last year, 2016, and you could argue that fight of the year. I didn't give it fight of the year. No one really did, but it was up there. That was a crazy, crazy fight. And James Vick, he's more technical. But, he seems like a guy to me that you can draw into a back and forth stand-up war quite easily. He seems like the type of guy who, despite that isn't really his game, he's a submission guy. That's his bread and butter. You can draw him in, and that's why I think Polo Reyes, he has a good chance in this fight. And I feel the lines are off.
Look, I agree with you. I think the lines are way off. I'll just get into it. I'm picking Vic here, but it's with a lot of trepidation that I'm picking Vic. I think the lines are way off. I think Reyes has a very good chance to win this fight. Because there are a lot of things that match up well for him here. Like Reyes he's a power puncher. Like he's a boxer with good power in his hands, and a tendency to brawl a little bit. But he works really well in the pocket. He's an excellent combination boxer. His problems are his defensive wrestling. Like he is a bad defensive wrestler, but he's pretty good at. He knows that he doesn't need to be on the ground, and so he's good at getting back up immediately. But he still is a bad defensive wrestler, and that's a huge gap to come with. Vic, Vic isn't a great offensive wrestler. I think he's probably good enough to take advantage of Marco Polo Reyes in that regard, but he's still not a great offensive wrestler. And the thing that gives me a lot of concern with Vic is he's huge for the division. Like he's an absolutely enormous lightweight. And he's got big physical advantages here. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. He's got 4 inches of height. Like that's a lot of ground to cover. And in Reyes' fight against Jason Novelli, that was his last fight, actually.
Yep.
Vic has the same physical kind of dimensions there, and Reyes had a really hard time just navigating the distance. And so I think Vic has that inherent advantage. The problem is Vic, like you said, Vic can get drawn into sort of brawling exchanges, into striking battles that don't best suit his skill set. When he's focused on striking, he's got a good jab. He can maintain distance fairly well, but when he's not, he is just he gets hit like all the damn time, especially by left hooks. Like his defense is bad anyway, but he gets hit by left hooks a lot, and Reyes throws a really good left hook. It's one of his best punches. He looks for it often. And so that, like, Reyes' pressure, his power, his particular things that he excels at line up well against James Vick. It's hard for me to think Vick has a huge physical advantages on the feet, and he's a good enough wrestler, I think, to get it down and take advantage of Polo Reyes there. But totally possible that Polo Reyes just comes and puts some leather on his face and James Vick folds. I'm banking on his toughness to kind of survive that onslaught. So my pick is James Vick by either a submission or like a just late TKO from beating him up on the ground. But I'll say like a choke of some kind. He's got those long arms. He's good with a darce. So I'll say Vick by darce in the third round, but Polo Reyes totally in this fight could totally win.
I'm with you here. I'm picking James Vick, but as I said off the top, Marco Polo Reyes is a freaking animal on the feet. As we saw in the Dong Hun Kim fight, and as we saw in the Jason Novelli fight, that he can strike in a bit more of a calm fashion and outpoint. Although I believe more people scored that fight for Novelli. So, Marcos Polo Reyes isn't exactly anything special other than the fact that he can put on wars and it is a slugger. He has a fantastic chin. And this is an interesting matchup because it's, a striker, a banger versus a very good grappler who isn't known for his striking really whatsoever in James Vick. I think Vic is quite he's significantly bigger. I mean, Vic is a huge lightweight at that, so that's no surprise. He has 4 inches on height of height on El Toro, and 5 inches of reach. So that's going to play. That has to play a part in this fight. Vic should be able to keep enough distance while the fight does take place on the feet to not get hit. I'm not super confident in Vic's chin. He's coming off the first or 2 fights ago. He had his first pro loss to Beneil Dariush. No shame in losing to Dariush, but Dariush isn't exactly a knockout artist. So that was a little eye-opening for me. Marco Polo Reyes, he absolutely could do the same thing. If Vic isn't careful on the feet, he could get blasted by the Mexican, and I wouldn't be all that surprised. But ultimately, Vic is the craftier guy. He is the smarter fighter. He is ultimately the better fighter. I think he gets this to the ground eventually after weathering the early storm from Marco Polo Reyes. And I like James Vicker. I like him by submission. I like him, as I said, get it down to the ground and choke out Polo Reyes. Maybe, as you said, a late TKO, ground and pound, but I do like Vic here by submission. I don't know what. I'll go rear naked choke, be a bit more boring than your Darce prediction. Moving on.
Excuse me, sir. For posterity, Wes Riddle has also picked James Vick to win by in the second round. He is also going with submission. So all 3 of us are on the James Vick bandwagon. Now you may proceed to Jared Gordon versus Michel Quinones.
I'm going to remember about Wesley Riddle by the main event. I will maybe promise you that, but because probably I will forget. But
don't worry, I'm on top of it. I got it.
That's the hopes. That's my goal. Jared Flash Gordon, that is, taking on Michel Quinones, Capo, whatever you want to say. 2 newcomers here in the featherweight division. Who do you like here?
Hold on. Sorry, I was quenching my thirst. I'm operating on very little sleep, and I needed caffeine. So Mountain Dew. Do the do, guys. Who are we talking? We're talking Flash Gordon versus Capo, eh?
Yes.
Like you said, 2 guys making their debut. Jared Gordon is coming off the Looking for a Fight show. Interesting insofar as he is one first, I guess what I should say is Sean El-Shadi, my colleague at MMAfighting.com. He did a sort of long formish piece on the Jared Gordon's background. I would strongly urge and recommend anybody to go read that. Extremely interesting piece about like how Jared Gordon got to where he is, struggles with drug addiction, things like that. Really captivating stuff. Well worth a read. So do that. 2, Gordon came off Looking for a Fight series, and Dana White, I went and watched it. He beat the hell out of this guy. It was a close contest, actually. Let me rephrase that. But at the end, White goes up and talks to him and is like, "Man, this kid doesn't have hardly any personality, but he can fight." And that's pretty true. I can't speak too much on the personality part, but Jared Gordon is a good prospect. He's I think he's 27, so he's not like a super young prospect, but he's really well rounded for still being pretty young in his MMA game. He's good volume. He's got good volume on the feet, solid wrestler, and he marries the 2 very well. He blends his wrestling and his striking very well. He's a BJJ brown belt, and I want to make sure I think he's a BJJ brown belt. Yeah, he's a BJJ brown belt under Donaher. John Donaher, the Donaher Death Squad, they have been running absolutely roughshod over like the Eddie Bravo series of things. Extremely talented grapplers, excellent leg lock games, sort of funky, slightly unorthodox styles, particularly for an established MMA game. So he's a really great grappler, good clinch takedown, stuff like that. And he's a very competent boxer on the feet with a volume attack. Quinones, he's a striker. He comes from a karate background. He's also a pretty decent prospect. He uses a lot of movement, sets a really long range where he can kick. And you can see from watching him fight, like, yeah, that guy looks like he has a karate background. A lot of straight punches, a lot of distance management. And because he's managing the distance, he defends takedowns very well. So for me, I'm really interested in this fight because you got two guys that are decent prospects. Neither guy looks like they're going to, be a champion one day, but they're guys who can contribute right now in the division and will grow and get better and can contribute more. And so for me, this is about range and who gets to dictate that and dealing with sort of the pressures of making a UFC debut. It's talked about all the time. First time octagon jitters are a thing. And that might play a difference here, but, if Gordon can get inside on Quinones, it's his fight to win. If he can't, it's Quinones' fight to win. Like if Quinones can keep the distance, his kicking game is going to pile up points and win. I think I like Gordon's ability to use his strikes to set up takedown attempts. Like I said, he marries those two very well. I think he's going to do it well enough to get inside, get a couple takedowns, get in the clinch. And so I'm picking Gordon by decision, but I think it's a really fun fight, and I could totally be wrong.
I don't really know much about this fight. I've heard good things about both guys, more so though for Jared Gordon. So that is my pick. I will go Gordon by decision, although he is coming off looking for a fight. That's not good because looking for a fight, guys, more so lose than win. But I will take that chance. Give me Jared Gordon here by decision. Moving on, we got a super
man.
fun fight.
We literally just talked about it. Wes Riddle.
Oh my.
Wes Riddle's picking Jared Gordon by decision. So you've lost your speaking privileges, sir. Moving on. The next fight on the card could potentially be a hell of a fight. A great scrambling affair. I hope we get that. Chad Skelly taking on Jason Knight, affectionately referred to by many in the community as Hick Diaz. Who do you have, sir? Knight, Skelly, go.
You know what? This is a super close fight. And as I was saying before, you cut me off because I, yet again, forgot about Wesley Riddle. This is one of the best fights on the card, and that's saying a lot, considering we have two title fights, a lot of top contenders, and a lot of good matchups. But this is a super, super awesome featherweight fight. I am going with the slight underdog here. I believe last time I checked, he was plus money. Jason the Kid Knight. I don't like him big time because Chad Skelly, this will mostly be a grappling matchup. But the reason I'm picking Jason Knight, because I do think Skelly, well, their grappling abilities are closely equal. Maybe Skelly has a bit of an advantage, but, Knight is super good on the mat as well. The reason I'm going Knight is because he is the more well-rounded fighter. He has a lot. He has improving striking. He looked good on the feet in his recent bouts. And Chad Skelly, he's getting better, but he's not quite there yet. This will mostly be a grappling affair, and that's why it's going to be so close because both guys are good scramblers, and Skelly, as I said, could again, you can argue, you can make cases for both guys as far as who's the better a submission artist. I will say that title goes to Jason the Kid here, but or no, Chad Skelly, but I think Knight will win because if this one takes place a bit on the feet, which I do expect a little time on the feet, I think Knight wins the exchanges all day. Both guys are super tough. Both guys are scrappy. Both guys are Southern guys. This is an awesome, awesome fight. I'm going Jason Knight. He has more ways to win, and so that's why I'm going Knight. I'll say decision. I think Skelly goes the distance, but just comes up short. Knight picks up the more points. Give me the Kid. Hick Diaz by unanimous decision. Who knows? Maybe even a split.
I like the pick. I'm with you on it. Skelly he's a grinder. He's an NAI All-American wrestler, but really a great transitional grappler. I mean, the only person who's really out-grappled him is
Darren Elkins.
Darren Elkins. And look, man, Darren Elkins is – you just can't – there's nothing you can say about oh, he got out-grappled by Darren Elkins. So did everybody else. That's just the world. But I'll tell you what, Skelly started working with Henry Hooft not that long ago. And he's gotten so much better as a striker in his last few outings. It's unbelievable. He was a willing but poor striker before. He's starting to develop a jab, a right hand. He's already got pretty good timing. So his work with Hoof, like to me, that's the biggest X factor here. I want to see if he continues that progression, then he's going to have a great stand-up game as well, and that's going to create big problems for Jason Knight because I guess I agree with you on picking Jason Knight, but I don't agree with you. I don't think we're going to get a lot of scrambling here. I hope we do because Jason Knight has that type of active lethal guard where he is sweeping and submitting. He's immediately looking for rubber setups, getting his legs high, controlling. Like he's quick and lethal on the ground, which is awesome. And Skelly is a hell of a transitional grappler, a hell of a scrambler, so that would be really fun. But look, Jason Knight's improved his takedown defense a lot. His stats still look bad, but a lot of the stats looking bad is a result of against Tetsuya Kawajiri, he pulled guard a lot, which was a horrible strategic plan. Tetsuya Kawajiri is way too good a grappler for you to think you're going to hit any type of like a dead orchard sweep or some bullshit on him from that. Like you're just not getting anywhere with that. But he's gotten much better at defending takedowns. And frankly, the last time we saw Chaz Skelly, I think Jason Knight is a much better striker. I don't think he's like a great striker, but he throws hard. He throws in combination, and he's in there throwing aggressively, backing people down. I think if Skelly has improved a lot and can shorten that gap, this is a hell of a fight. If not, I think Jason Knight's a good enough wrestler to mostly keep this on the feet. If Skelly can get a takedown, I think Knight's good enough to keep him guessing, keep him working, create scrambles. Probably not good enough to get to the back on Chaz Skelly, but good enough to create the scrambles that get him back to his feet. But mostly I think he's going to be able to keep this on the feet, and that he's just going to overload Skelly with punches, you know? I like Jason Knight a lot as a fighter. I think he's getting better time in and time out. And he's got that like meanness that you saw against Alex Caceres, that meanness you saw against Daniel Hooker when he's just talking shit in the cage. So this could be really fun. Give me Jason Knight by unanimous decision. I hope it turns into a scramble fest, but I kind of don't think it does.
Well, I got to ask, who does Wesley Riddle have?
Look at you go. So proud of you. I almost said it, but then I was like, I'm going to let it. I'm going to leave him there. I'm going to give him the rope to hang himself. But you didn't, and I am proud of you for that. Wes Riddle is also on the Chaz Skelly plan. Sorry, not also. He's diverged from either of us, so he's on his own island with Chaz Skelly by decision. I can't say it's a bad pick from him. Wish he was here to defend it, but just couldn't do it. So
he was on his own earlier, was he not? With a different pick. I swear oh no, we were talking off air, and it's a future pick. Never mind. We will get to that.
You're right. There you go.
I was half right.
Don't want to spoil it, but you're right.
Exactly. Moving on, we have what could be, fight of the night, perhaps. We got Eddie Alvarez taking on Dustin Poirier. Really, really important lightweight matchup. Number 3, the former champion coming off his title loss to Conor McGregor. Dustin Poirier coming off a loss to Michael Johnson. He rebounded recently in February with a somewhat not concerning, but eye-opening decision win over Jim Miller. Not nearly as dominant as some people thought, including myself. Super even fight. Who do you have in this FX featured prelim?
We'll get to it later, but I do think this could very well be your fight of the night. I'm excited about this one, man. Look, I'm not the biggest Eddie Alvarez guy. It's been a take I've defended for a while now. I understand that historically he's a great lightweight, one of the at absolute worst, one of the 10 best lightweights you've ever fought. But I think people overestimate his game. I think people in our space overestimate him a lot. Because of the fact that he spent so long outside of the UFC and because he had this cult following. I think it's sort of built on itself that people overestimated him. Because look, straight up, Eddie Alvarez hadn't been good in the UFC, man. Like, there's no way, and that's a bulletproof statement. Like, you can't defend his performances in the UFC. He's had one good one. He got beat up by Donald Cerrone. Like, straight up, he got beat up by Donald Cerrone. He won a questionable decision against Gilbert Melendez. I think he deserved to get the victory, but it was extremely narrow. and then he shouldn't have gotten a win over Anthony Pettis. Like he lost that fight, but they gave him a win. He had a good performance against Rafael dos Anjos. No questions asked there. Absolutely.
Quickly, Rafael dos Anjos had passed out the day before, or within 48 hours.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna knock that. Like he can't. He showed up. Both guys showed up in the cage. He fought. He looked great. Good for him. Like I'm not gonna knock the dos Anjos fight. And I'd probably pick him to beat dos Anjos again, like straight up. And then he got emasculated by Conor McGregor. Like he got beat so badly by Conor McGregor that I honestly do not know that he could ever work his way back to a fight against Conor McGregor. Like he would have to put together a 10-fight win streak at lightweight for anybody to even consider wanting to watch that fight again. This wasn't Conor landing one good punch like he did on Aldo and the fight was over before it even began. This was a complete establishment of dominance, the likes of which have rarely been seen in the sport. So of his 4 UFC performances, he is 2-2 realistically, and arguably could be 1-3. Like he hasn't looked good since moving to the UFC.
He's had more than 4 fights, but the point stands.
No, I said in the UFC.
Yeah, in the UFC.
Has he?
Well,
Cerrone, Melendez. Oh, 5. You're right. 5. Cerrone, Melendez, Pettis, dos Anjos, McGregor.
Gotta get the stats right.
2-3. So he should be 2-3. Could arguably be 1-4. You're right. Absolutely correct. But yeah, so that's my take on that sort of thing in general. Also, totally concerned about how he looks coming out for this fight, because he said all the right things. He sounds rejuvenated, but he gets hit a lot. He's had a long career. He got dusted up in his last fight. And not even just from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, that type of thing can be really backbreaking. Conor McGregor can change lives, and maybe he changed Eddie. To get to a little bit of a technical breakdown, though, I won't spend too much time on it because I've already talked a lot. Eddie's a boxer puncher, man. He gets drawn into brawls way more than he should. His work under Mark Henry's curbed that a lot. He's better about not getting into brawls. But he's still, and he's a better striker. He's not a great wrestler, but he's a consistently relentless one, which is a good thing. But that's not going to matter because he's not really going to take down Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier is not going to take him down. They're going to strike it out. And the thing is, Dustin Poirier is one of the biggest hitters in the lightweight division. Dude has a hell of a punch. And I think he's really, really good on the inside. So for me, this fight comes down to if Eddie Alvarez stays at range, he works a range game, I think he can beat Dustin Poirier. I think Eddie Alvarez is going to get drawn into a brawl because that's what he wants to do. And he can beat Dustin Poirier in a brawl too. Both guys have a lot of holes in their defense. Both guys get hit early. Both guys have questionable chins. But Dustin Poirier hits way harder than Eddie. I think he's a better in those sort of interior exchanges. So more often than not, I think Dustin Poirier is going to be the one who lands the real big fight affecting punches in those exchanges. And then he's the one who can he's the one who more likely knocks out Eddie Alvarez. And the last thing I will say, Poirier has a really good straight left hand. In the last fight, Eddie Alvarez got hit by almost every single left hand Conor McGregor threw. I'm not saying Poirier and Conor McGregor are the same fighter. They're not. But it was still pretty. It puts me off to think that, look, like, Conor's throwing a left hand. Like, that's literally all you're training for is the left hand. And Conor still landed every straight left that he threw. Dustin Poirier hits really hard, and if he has the same type of success landing a left hand at range, he can win this any way it goes. I'm picking Dustin Poirier to knock out Eddie Alvarez in the first round. Maybe it's a little tentative at first. They get into a brawl, and Poirier's power is more than Eddie's, and from there, that's the end of the game. So, Poirier KO round 1.
Well, history would say that Eddie Alvarez rips Dustin Poirier apart because Dustin Poirier has had, let's count, dating back to, I'm going to go following the Cub Swanson fight back in February 2013. So since August of 2013, Dustin Poirier has fought let's see. Okay. Diego Brandao might have been ranked. I'll give him that. So he beat Brandao, although I'm not confident he was ranked at that time. I'm not sure about Eric Koch, but he did get that win. But the big fights, Conor McGregor he lost to, and Michael Johnson he lost to. Other big fight wins he had, Bobby Green, Joe Duffy, neither were in the rankings at both during both fights. So he gets these step ups, and after a 4-fight winning streak essentially, and he never can quite get over the hump. I've been high on Dustin Poirier ever since I watched him for the very first time, which was probably more recent than everybody else, but doesn't matter. I picked Eddie Alvarez on the MMA circuits this past week, a few days ago only. I had Eddie Alvarez in the Bloody Elbow Stat predictions, which will be posted tomorrow. But I think I am going to change my pick. I think I'm picking Poirier. I think he gets over that hump. Now, Eddie Alvarez, what are their ages? Alvarez must be at least a couple years older.
Great question. Let's take a look. Eddie Alvarez is 19? He's born January 11th, 1984. What's that make him? 33?
Ish. 33.
Yeah, 33. 33. We'll he's 27. 33.
So 33. Poirier, I'll say he's 31.
Correct.
All right. I'm a great age. Let's check.
1989. 1989. So 32. He just turned 32 this year, right?
Dustin Poirier is 28 years old.
28. Why can't I think? What? Oh, because I'm doing math backwards. That's why he's 28. You're right.
Doing math backwards, not exactly the best plan, but
I never said I was a mathematician.
I'll let that slide. So Dustin Poirier, a bit younger, 5 years younger, and more than a bit. He's going to be the fresher guy. Eddie Alvarez is coming off, as you said, a tremendous, or probably shouldn't use the word tremendous, but a terrible loss to Conor McGregor. Got outpointed, got outclassed, got brutally finished. It was not a good night for Eddie Alvarez, and he finds himself on a prelim card about 6 months after being the main event of the biggest card of the year last year. So not a good spot for the former lightweight champion, who was only the champion about half a year, more than half a year ago, but 10 months or so. This is so tough. Dustin Poirier is a crisper fighter. He's probably the faster guy. Eddie Alvarez, for the majority of his UFC career, I have not been impressed. Got outpointed pretty badly by Cowboy in his debut, September 2014. Then beat Melendez and then beat Pettis, although both those fights could have gone the other way. I think I scored it for Melendez and then for Alvarez in the Pettis fight, but not too sure. But yeah, close fights, could have gone either way. Then the performance of a lifetime against RDA, who I will note that, as I said, he did pass out the day before, worth noting in my opinion, and then he got demolished by McGregor. So honestly, not a fantastic UFC run for Alvarez whatsoever. He's had one performance where he really shined, and he's more likely to not live up to expectations yet again come Saturday night, coming off a brutal win. He wants this, but physically, where is he at? I mean, is this the decline of Eddie Alvarez finally? After so many brawls, after so many back and forth fights in his career, of course, Michael Chandler standing out of, is he the same guy, or as you said, or did Conor McGregor change him? And I think there's a very good chance of that, and I'm not going to bet that didn't happen. Poirier underperforms as well. The Jim Miller fight, I was a bit, he won that fight clearly, but it wasn't a dominant performance. Jim Miller actually looked okay on the feet, which was surprising to me, going up against a very good striker in Poirier. And Poirier, he won, but he didn't get the finish. That's against an aging Jim Miller who, to his credit, is still durable and very tough. But I expected more from Poirier in that fight. Then, before that, lost to Michael Johnson. Very devastating. Both guys should be better than they perform on occasion. Poirier at times has looked fantastic. Joe Duffy, Bobby Green, etc. But there are more question marks in this fight than you might think initially, especially with Alvarez. I'm going to go Poirier. I think he's the crisper guy on the feet. I think he's quicker. I think he's fresher. He's younger. And 3-inch reach advantage, worth noting at the very least. I think he decisions the Underground King. I don't know if Alvarez will be completely there, skill-wise, physically, etc. So I got to go with as I said, with the younger guy in Dustin Poirier. The Diamond, I'll go the Diamond by unanimous decision. In a fun fight, I think he comes up victorious, though. Moving on. Kicking off the pay-per-view main card since the Henry Cejudo-Sergio Pettis fight was canceled. Krzysztof Jotko, number 9 at middleweight, welcomes David Branch back to the UFC, former World Series of Fighting middleweight and light heavyweight champion. He is coming back for the first time in a number of years, and definitely not exactly a warm welcome back. Krzysztof Jotko, I'm high on him. I know you are as well. He's a very, very good fighter. He's getting better. His record is great, and he's going to be training at full-time at ATT. Can't get much better than that. Great decision from him. Do you think Jotko gets the win here against Branch, or do you think the vet in David Branch is victorious in his return?
Like you said, I'm big on Jotko. You know what else I'm big on? Not forgetting our co-host, Wes Riddle, which you do not seem to be big on. Wes Riddle, for posterity, he chose Eddie Alvarez by TKO in the second round. Having said that, let's move on. Not going to harp on your failings as a host. Krzysztof Jotko. I am big on this guy, man. I think Krzysztof Jotko, I like the fact he got moved to the main pay-per-view card. I think having the Alvarez-Poirier fight as the pay-per-view lead-in on FX makes all the sense in the world. Same with the Aguilar fight in the undercard. Like that's good, solid matchmaking. So I think Jotko Branch is a good fight to move to the pay-per-view. Branch, former World Series of Fighting 2-weight champion, former UFC fighter a long time ago. It's been, I don't even know how many years since it's been back. And this is a good fight. The winner of this fight is, they're not in the thick title contention at middleweight because that's a cluster. We talked about it all the time on the circus. We all know what's going on there. But Jotko,
I love how you say all the time as if you've hosted the show for years with me.
All the time. But yeah, Jotko, Jotko's already got a ranking. A win for Branch definitely puts him in the top 10 of the division. A win for either guy should get them closer to that top echelon, get them the fights against higher up contenders. So some stakes here. For Branch, he's getting old. He's 35, so he needs, if he's going to put together a run in the UFC, it needs to be now. If he fails in this come up, maybe he moves up to light heavyweight and starts competing there. Like I said, 2-weight champion, World Series of Fighting. Light heavyweight's a much more open division, and his body type works there. Because he's got a really long. He's a big dude. He's got 81-inch reach, which is that's enormous. Off the top of my head, the only fighter I can think who has a reach that is more than that is John Jones. I think even the big heavyweight reaches are like 80 inches. So that's an enormous reach for Dave Branch. And he used it pretty well. He's got a good jab. He's a veteran, man. He's been around forever. He does everything pretty well. He can stay at range with his size. He can work in the clinch. He's got good takedowns, excellent control on top, combined striking, passing, submissions, all that. He's a complete fighter in that way. But to Jotko, I'm going to be picking Jotko, and I'm going to be picking Jotko because I think I was talking about this with the Naked Gambler on our podcast last night. Shameless plug, go check it out. The Naked Truth. Jotko, to me, Jotko is like a better Michael Bisping. Like, not even he's Michael Bisping, only he's not 38 and old and gotten hit a lot. He's a high volume kickboxer. He throws consistently, operates well at range. He can do a lot of good things, piles up volume, not a ton of power, but just consistently technical, consistently there doing what he wants to do. Outstanding takedown defense. It's really, really difficult to get him to the ground. And we saw in his last fight, good offensive wrestling. He took down Talis Leites. He controlled Talis Leites on the ground. Talis Leites is a well-respected BJJ black belt. And Jotko hung with him in grappling exchanges, was totally fine. He he's good everywhere. He's not going to light the world on fire, but I like his game. I think his game plays very well against most fighters. He can keep it on the feet and he can outpoint him. I think he's going to do that to Dave Branch. I don't think Branch can get anything going in the wrestling game. So he's going to have to contest with him on the feet. And Dave Branch doesn't throw a lot of volume. He's a 1 and 2 shot fighter. So it's just more points are getting scored by Jocko. I like Jocko to win a very clear 3. He's going to take all 3 rounds on the scorecards, 30-27. Christoph Jocko. Hope we get to see him against, somebody in the mid to upper tier next time.
Yeah, I'm going to Christoph Jocko here as well. This will be one of the bigger wins of his career. I think the Talis Ladies win would be bigger, but David Branch he's a notable guy. He's been in the UFC before and, long-time WSOF champion, 2-weight class as well. But I like Jocko here. I like him quite a bit. This is on a card that most of these fights are super close. This is one of my most confident picks. I like Jocko quite a bit. Branch is good everywhere, but I think Jocko is better where Branch is good for the most part. Branch is, of course, a very good wrestler. But beyond that, I think Jocko is pretty much better everywhere. I mean, this guy's striking is getting so much better. And it already was good. His grappling is getting so much better. So Branch trying to outgrind Christoph Jocko, that's not going to be easy. I suspect that will be Branch's game plan, to take him down repeatedly and pick up a somewhat boring decision win. But I don't think Jocko will allow him to do that. I think his takedown defense is pretty solid. He's also not the bigger guy. I was going to say he's the bigger guy, but the height is the same, and Branch actually has a reach advantage. So that's interesting. But Jocko, he uses kicks a little bit. He's good at keeping range. I think he keeps Branch off him. I think he rips Branch apart on the feet. I'm not trying to take away from Branch's stand-up game. It's good, but Jocko is, I would imagine, quite a bit younger. He is on more momentum, although Branch is, of course, on a big winning streak. More recently, recently, Jocko has fought the better competition and has prevailed in those fights with flying colors. I'm big on Christoph Jocko. I like David Branch, his skill set as a fighter, but I'm not so sure it's a skill set that can bring him to the top of the middleweight division. Jocko, on the other hand, I do see being in the title mix sooner than later. I like Jocko here a lot. Give me Jocko by decision. I think he outpoints Branch on the feet. And I will remember this time. Who does Wes have?
Look at you go. So proud of you. Wes, this was the one you were talking about earlier when originally it would have been on the undercard. Wes diverged from the two of us. He's picking Dave Branch by decision. I really wish he was on the show because that is one I would love to hear him talk about.
Yes, for sure. Oh, well, he's at a conference. Bigger and better things to do.
True. It's true.
Before the battle, though, I feel like Wes is underrating before the battle.
Possibly. Where are we at now? Oh goodness, that's right. We're in the main card. I'm excited to hear your take on this one. Me and the Naked Gambler on our podcast, The Naked Truth, shameless plug. Check it out. You can find the links on my Twitter account. We disagreed pretty strongly about this one last night, so I'm excited to see other people's takes on it. Frankie Edgar, former lightweight champion, 2-time.
Before you begin, I want to predict who you will be picking. I feel like you don't like Yair Rodriguez because he just demolished your guy, BJ Penn, and I feel like you're high and you love Frankie Edgar just because that's what most people do.
A bold prediction. We'll see if you're right. We'll get there. But for now, Frankie Edgar, former UFC lightweight champion, former 2-time UFC featherweight challenger to Jose Aldo, current featherweight champion. A win here might give Frankie Edgar a title shot if Max Holloway beats Jose Aldo later this year. A win for Yair Rodriguez almost certainly makes him the next title challenger, regardless of who wins the Jose Aldo-Max Holloway fight down the line. A lot of stakes. Who you got?
Sorry, I was taking a phone call. Probably not the best thing to do during a podcast, but can you please repeat your question?
Who you got? Frankie Edgar, Yair
Oh,
Rodriguez.
you gave your pick that quickly,
I didn't
or
give my pick. I'm letting you lead
well,
because
I
I want
want
to
I, I
want to
don't
see
want to
what you
lead
say
because
first.
I want to see what yours is, but I will oblige. And the phone is ringing, but I won't be that bad of a podcast host to answer it. Sorry to my sister. She is calling because she wants a ride home. No can do. I would assume you are watching before the battle, so she now knows. She's not. I'm going Frank Edgar. I am going with the vet here with the answer. And I can't tell if Jed is if that's a smirk, meaning he's going Rodriguez, or meaning that he's unhappy we're agreeing, or what his take is. We will find out shortly. I'm going with Frankie Edgar because I don't necessarily think Yair Rodriguez is overrated. Some people are pulling that label out. I don't necessarily think so, but I think people are expecting Yair Rodriguez to style on Frankie Edgar, and I simply think Frankie Edgar will style on Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez has never been tested like this before. Frankie Edgar has. Frankie Edgar has fought big fighters, big lightweights before, and although he lost to Benson Henderson, you know, you know what I'm about to say. Those fights probably should have gone the other way. BJ Penn, and even though he's fighting at featherweight, once was what 205 pounds at one point. He's fought his fair share of big fighters. I'm not trying to compare Yair Rodriguez to someone like BJ Penn or Benson Henderson, completely different style. And I do think this is a close fight, like the majority of these fights, because Yair Rodriguez has a very, very funky style and could style on Frankie Edgar. I don't see it happening because I think Edgar is going to grind out Rodriguez. I'm not so sure Rodriguez can keep it standing. If he does, if Rodriguez can keep this fight standing, he's going to win this fight. If Frankie Edgar can't close the distance, Rodriguez is going to throw kicks at Edgar all night. I believe Edgar is slowly but surely declining. He's still one of the best featherweights out there, and Rodriguez is on the upcline, but Edgar has a style that will work wonders against a fighter like Yair Rodriguez. That is my opinion. I think Edgar can close the distance and take Rodriguez down. It'll take he might have a bit of difficulty at first, but I think come the second round, I think he'll find his groove a little bit. The guy has fought so many good fighters. Yair Rodriguez, this is too big of a step up. I'm a little questioning the UFC's decision to do this fight because, probably in hindsight, maybe it'll work out. Rodriguez wins and huge win and blah, blah, blah. But stylistically, not exactly a great matchup for Rodriguez. You can say that about Edgar as well. But to me, not a fantastic matchup for Rodriguez for their golden boy at the featherweight division now that Conor McGregor is out. I'm going Edgar, though. I think he gives Rodriguez his first UFC loss. I like Edgar not by a lot, but I do like him to pick up a decision. Now, the most anticipated breakdown of the card so far, Edgar Rodriguez.
You said that you thought I would be picking Frankie Edgar because Yair Rodriguez was so mean to Frankie Edgar.
To BJ Penn.
To BJ Penn, you're correct. And that's not a bad line of thought. But what you forgot to factor in is that Frankie Edgar stole BJ Penn's lightweight title from him. He unjustly won a 5-round decision to take the title. Had he not won that decision, had BJ gotten the decision he deserved in their first fight, Frankie would have had to go back to the back of the line, might have dropped to featherweight sooner. He and BJ certainly wouldn't have immediately rematched. BJ would have fought Gray Maynard. BJ would have beat up Gray Maynard. BJ then probably fights, Benson Henderson or something like that. Frankie Edgar ruined what could have been a long-term, an even longer title reign from BJ Penn, and I've never forgiven him for it. So your thought was right. It just didn't go back far enough. I'm picking Yair Rodriguez, and I'm not just picking him because I still haven't forgiven Frankie Edgar for the BJ Penn problems, but because I think everything lines up well for him, man. You mentioned it. Benson Henderson has 2 wins over Frankie Edgar. Now, granted, I'm I'm not an unreasonable man. I think Benson Henderson didn't win those fights, but the way he won the fights on the judges' scorecards was basically he kicked him a bunch. He maintained distance a lot, and he kicked him a bunch. And Yair Rodriguez is way better at doing both of those things than Benson Henderson was or is. Now, Frankie's improved a lot. He's added layers and depth to his skill, but to me, mostly the way he's improved is as a chain wrestler and as a ground and pound artist. And so for this fight, it's what I said for the last fight with Jose Aldo. Everybody was like, man, Frankie's improved so much. Yeah, but did he improve in ways that are going to manifest themselves in the fight? Like, he still can't take Jose Aldo down, so his improvements are pretty negligible. He's still just going to get boxed up on the feet. And I think that same sort of idea applies here. If he can't take Yair Rodriguez down, he's lost. The fight's over. He is lost. He has to get Yair down. Yair doesn't have an astounding takedown defense, but he's young. He's much more athletic at this point, much more explosive, probably stronger. He's a lot longer. He's got a reach advantage, a significant height advantage, and he's improving his footwork dramatically. I know he busted up BJ Penn, and so not many people are taking a lot from the Penn win, but he moved very well in the Penn fight. He was cutting his angles, he was circling well, and just firing consistent volume from distance. I think he can do that on Frankie Edgar. I don't think Frankie Edgar is going to be able to consistently get inside. And if he does, I don't know that he can work takedowns. Edgar's best chance to me is to catch a kick and work takedowns from there. And if he does, then yeah, like if he gets takedowns, he's going to win. I don't think Yair is going to get back up quickly as it required. And Frankie's hellacious on top. I just don't think he's going to. I think he's going to have to work his way through a whole lot of volume, a whole lot of power to get into the wrestling range. I don't think he's going to be good. He's never been a sensational wrestler. His wrestling was most effective when he blended it with his striking. But just on like a pure shot for shot basis, he was never like the best at it. So I think this is it, man. I think Yair Rodriguez announces himself as a real dude. Frankie's old. He's looked physically diminished to me a lot lately, but he's making up for it with more depth and craft. And I think he's just going to hit the wall where athleticism, speed, power, explosion, all those things coalesce in his opponent and create a bad night for him. I'm picking Yair Rodriguez. I think he can absolutely dictate range, and I don't know if he's going to get a stoppage. I'm going to say he's not. I think Frankie's still really tough, so I'm going to say he wins just a decision. But Yair Rodriguez is going to get himself a title shot with this win.
Alrighty, fair enough. Well, I like that we're disagreeing on this one. I'm not confident, and I don't know. I mean, how confident are you in Rodriguez? Like, you have to say it's a close fight, no?
I'm not confident. It's a close fight. If Frankie wins, I won't be incredibly surprised. But there are many fights I feel more concerned about. Honestly, until last night when I was talking with TNG and he picked Frankie Edgar. Until then, I was like, I felt pretty good about it. I still feel pretty good. I think people are still riding Frankie Edgar bandwagon. And I think people have a natural tendency to not want to overestimate a prospect because we do that so often. And I don't think it's overestimating him to say that this stylistically matches up fairly well for him. Maybe I'll look like an asshole. I don't know. To be fair, our colleague, Wes Riddle, is also picking Edgar by decision. So this is another time where I'm out on an island. But I like my island. I was on an island with Mike Perry knocking out Jake Ellenberger. And that island turned out pretty okay is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, you can't compare Frankie Edgar to Jake Ellenberger. I know you're not, but you definitely can't. Edgar, a top contender. Jake Ellenberger, not so much. We move on to this is a great matchup. I am, one of the fights I'm most looking forward to because the winner, asterisk, should get the next title shot. Will they? Oh, at this point, it's probably Conor McGregor, but Damian Maia is taking on Jorge Masvidal at welterweight to determine the best welterweight or the number one contender, I should say, in the division. And Tyron Woodley's likely next fight, but again, Woodley talking about fighting Bisping, Nick Diaz, Conor McGregor.
George St. Pierre is the latest one.
Yep. So you never know. Anything can happen. And, of course, the UFC does not want Damian Maia anywhere close to his title belt. But if he wins this fight, eventually they're just going to have to give up on that and give Damian Maia his shot. But Jed, are you going with the slight favorite here in Jorge Masvidal, or do you think Damian Maia picks up yet another win?
Look, man, you and I think have talked about this before on several podcasts, and I stand by it. I will stand by it till the day I die. Damian Maia deserved a title shot over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson the first time, and I understand the reasons why he was never going to get that title shot, but I do feel he was robbed of that title shot. The fact that they made him take this Masvidal fight, like he accepted this fight, and I think that the rematch between Woodley and Thompson was like a week and a half later when he accepted the fight. Like, that's utter bullshit. He's gotten completely screwed here. And especially because this is a horrible style matchup for him. Like, George Masvidal, and I also want to clarify, because not everyone's going to listen to my podcast. I'm going to call him George Masvidal. I know his name is Jorge Masvidal, but he will always be George Masvidal to me, because if you haven't seen it, there is he used to compete in those old Kimbo Boatyard fights, and there's a video of him when he's like 17 maybe, fighting a dude named Ray, who is Kimbo's protege. He's this enormous dude, just like 200. He's clearly got like 40 pounds on Masvidal, and Masvidal beats the hell out of him. And it's incredible to watch, because Masvidal has this like bun, this enormous man bun going on, and he's wearing these ridiculous jorts, and he's dusting this dude up who outweighs him by 40 pounds, and they're just saying, "Get him, George! Get him, George!" So from that moment on, he will always and forever be George Masvidal to me, regardless of knowing that that's not how his name is actually pronounced. Anyway, George Masvidal is a hell of a technician, incredibly skilled in all facets of the game, an incredible striker. I'm not going to break down the particular technical things. I've done that a lot tonight, and I just don't need to do it for this one. I'm picking Damian Maia for two reasons. One, Damian Maia has out-wrestled better wrestlers than George Masvidal, even though I think Masvidal is a great wrestler. And so I am basically banking on him being able to do the same thing. He needs 2 takedowns. He just needs 2. I think he can survive on the feet for long, like a whole round if he had to, just, shelling up and surviving. He needs to get 2 takedowns, maybe even only 1, and then he can finish it. And the other reason I'm picking him, and this is the stupidest reason to pick him, but I'm doing it anyway, is because justice demands that he win this fight. Now, this is MMA, and justice doesn't live here. Justice does not know this home. And for that reason, it's probably the stupidest reason to pick him. Like, because of the way MMA works, you should probably pick George Masvidal to win. But I'm going even one level deeper. I'm picking Damian Maia because, as this year has seemed to showcase pretty well, everything bad that can happen to the UFC under the WME IMG ownership seems to be happening. So what would be really bad to happen is if Maia wins this fight, submits Masvidal, and basically forces their hand into giving him a title shot, and then he ends up doing the same thing to Woodley, and somehow they have a 39-year-old Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner who actively doesn't like to hurt people and tries to just cuddle somebody to sleep as their welterweight champion. So I'm betting that happens, because this has been a shit year for WME IMG. I hope that it continues, certainly, because I think Damian Maia deserves his day in court to see if he's the best welterweight on the planet. I hope he gets it. Maia, I think Masvidal is good enough to survive on the ground. So Maia by decision, that's my pick.
Well, I do not think Jorge Masvidal is good enough to survive on the ground, but it all comes down to, does it actually get there? Jorge Masvidal has very good takedown defense. His percentage of takedowns defended is almost 80%. It's 79 and change percent. So really fantastic stat there. And, just looking at his fights and whatnot, he has very good takedown defense. But Damian Maia is a whole nother animal when it comes to grappling and when it comes to wrestling. Of course, his submissions being his specialty, even over wrestling. But Damian Maia, at this point, I don't care how good you are at defending takedowns. I don't care how good of a wrestler you are. I don't care how good of a striker you are. If you can, if Masvidal keeps us on the feet, sure, he's going to rip Maia apart. He's probably going to knock Maia out. But at this point, with Maia looking so hot right now over the past 2 or 3 years, I essentially have to pick Damian Maia by default. I think Damian Maia finds a way to get this down to the mat pretty early on. And I would say the exact same thing versus 99 to 100% of the welterweights signed to the UFC right now. Demian Maia is just so far ahead of everybody in the jiu-jitsu department, in my opinion. I think he gets Masvidal down early. I think he taps him out. I think he doesn't actually demand a title shot, but he should, because he deserves it. Demian Maia by first round submission.
I do want to say one more thing on that I forgot to mention. An underrated aspect of this fight. George Masvidal obviously spent most of his career at lightweight. I just talked about him fighting much bigger men. But still, Demian Maia was a career middleweight, contended for a belt there, could still be getting very good wins in the division. I do think there's something to be said that, like, Demian Maia is a bigger man, and he's out-grappled bigger and better grapplers than George Masvidal. Like, say what you want about John Fitch, he's a hell of a wrestler, and Demian Maia took him to school. So that played in my role too. And also, our colleague Wes Riddle picked Maia by sub in the third round.
All right. Well, that brings us to the first of two title fights. Joanna Jędrzejczyk taking on Jessica Andrade for the UFC Strawweight Championship of the World. Joanna champion is of course the title holder. Andrade is your challenger. Who do you got here? Do you think the title stays in Poland, or I guess South Florida now that Joanna's staying or training at ATT, or do you think we see a new champion?
Pass. I don't want to. I still haven't even made my mind up. Like, I'm just gonna talk and then I'm gonna pick a prediction because I'm still stuck on this fight.
Get your coin ready. You'll need to talk about this stylistically, and then you'll need to flip the coin.
That's the thing, man. Like, it is. It feels like a coin flip fight to me. And talking to TNG last night gave me even more concerns because, like, I reflexively, when this matchup was announced, I reflexively thought, oh shit, Jessica Andrade's gonna win, because I think she's a bad style matchup for Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Andrade is a former bantamweight, drop down. She was a strong contender at bantamweight. She is maybe the strongest physical competitor at strawweight. Claudia Gadelha might have something to say to argue the point, but right there. But unlike Gadelha, Andrade has much better cardio. Doesn't fade after the 10 minutes and works a much better striking game, like John Lineker-esque. She comes forward, big power punches in a ton of volume, backs you up against the fence and just unloads combinations. Like, that's her game. And she's not like a one-hitter quitter puncher, but she lands 10 really good shots to the head and body in the span of 4 seconds, and it wears you down. On the other end of the spectrum, Joanna Jędrzejczyk is one of the best strikers in the entire UFC. A lot of Muay Thai, a lot of kickboxing accolades before she transitioned to MMA. Classically trained under Ernesto Hoost, a famous kickboxer of great aplomb. And she can do a lot of things. She has a great jab. It is a piston of a jab. She throws at some of the highest volume in the division, probably in the UFC. I didn't look at those exact numbers. And she piles up points. Like, she just piles up points. And similar to Andrade, she's not a real one-hitter knockout artist, though she has, she dropped Gadelha in their first fight. Basically, her dropping Gadelha won her the fight. She can hurt people with singular punches, but mostly she just hits you so hard and so often that by the 10-minute mark, you're exhausted. And she's developed a good kicking game. She had it. She got away from it because of concerns about wrestling for a little bit, but she feels much more comfortable because she's one of the best defenders of the takedowns in the UFC. She's an elite defensive wrestler. Not only is she elite at defensive wrestling, she makes you pay for shooting on her. Carla Esparza shot on her and just got the hell beat out of her every time she tried and failed. Claudia Gadelha had success in their rematch early. She landed a good, I think it was a right hook that kind of wobbled Jędrzejczyk. And then in the second round, she just did a lot of like muscular takedowns, this type of a spin off the fence where she sort of just used all her strength and energy to muscle her down. But Jędrzejczyk just got back up, and then she would chop her with elbows in the interior and work her over slowly but surely. By the third round, Gadelha starts to fade, and Jędrzejczyk just pours it on. She's going to have less opportunity to do that here because Andrade is better longer in the fight than Gadelha is. At the same time, I don't think Andrade has the same type of wrestling chops that Gadelha can just muscle takedowns on. I don't think Andrade can score takedowns. Like I think that this is almost exclusively a striking affair. And then the question becomes, is how's Joanna going to fight her? If Joanna stays in the pocket, I think she can win in the pocket. I think that gives Andrade a huge opportunity to win this fight. Because like we saw Karolina Kowalkiewicz, she got beat up for 24 minutes, but she did land one good flurry. And Kowalkiewicz is not a big hitter, but she caught Joanna and it knocked her on her ass. There's a concern amongst other people in the community that I didn't even think about until yesterday, that maybe Joanna's going down this Robbie Lawler-esque path of she's suffered a lot of damage in a lot of fights. I don't ascribe to that. And so I'm going to pick Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I'll stop bearing the lead. I don't ascribe to the fact that she's suffered a lot of damage, because I think there's a world of difference between Joanna Jędrzejczyk getting dropped once by Karolina Kowalkiewicz and still winning the round. Like, she got dropped by Kowalkiewicz, arguably still won that round despite. She got dropped by Gadelha and then beat the shit out of her for 15 minutes. Other than that, she hasn't really suffered a lot of damage in the fights. That's a way different than Robbie Lawler spending 50 minutes fighting Johnny Hendricks and 23 minutes going hammer and tong with Rory McDonald and having his soul taken by Tyron Woodley and just putting on the best fight, for my money, the best fight in the history of MMA, Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit. Like, though that is a ton of wear. I don't think Joanna's anywhere near that. So I think that's a little overblown. Andrade could hit her. She could maybe make things interesting. Her volume, like she can contest with her. She's better physically and she can contest with her in areas. I think Jędrzejczyk just has so much more talent, so much more technical skill, so much more craft. And I do think that she is improving her tendencies and abilities to play to play Matador a little more, to cut angles and to get away from prolonged exchanges. I think she does that enough here. Andrade might win a round or two early, but Jędrzejczyk builds a head full of steam, and over 25 minutes, I don't think there's a flyweight on the planet who can beat her. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and I'll be honest, I hope she wins because I love her.
What a great way to end that very, very lengthy breakdown. I'm picking Joanna Jędrzejczyk here as well. I think she defends her title yet again. How many in a row will this be? I'm going to say 5.
No, this is 5. 6 is next, I believe.
And 7 would be after that, and 8 would be after that as well.
6 would tie Ronda Rousey's title defense record for women. So that's why I said 6 would be after.
Gotcha. And for anyone that can't do math like Jed here, 7 and 8 do follow. As I said, Joanna Jędrzejczyk is going to win this fight. This isn't exactly the easiest fight she's had, though. Jessica Andrade could very well easily win this fight. Her power can take her to, it could take her to the title, as far as the title, as far as I'm concerned. The reason I'm not picking her is because Joanna, despite Andrade at one point fighting at bantamweight and doing fairly well at bantamweight, Joanna Jędrzejczyk is the bigger fighter. She's 3 inches taller and 3-inch reach advantage. She has over.
Are you sure about that?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, she does have a 3-inch reach. You're right. Okay. So
Joanna, definitely the bigger fighter. Jessica, very small at bantamweight, even a little small at strawweight, as crazy as that may sound. She's basically a mini, or no, not a mini, but she's basically the female version of John Lineker / a mini version of Wanderlei Silva. She's a bully in the cage. She is very ferocious. Her technique is getting better on the feet. She just doesn't necessarily swing wild punches. Joanna, though, is more well-rounded on the feet in general. She has more tools in the tool bag as far as her striking arsenal goes. Her elbows, of course, stand out. She is decent in the clinch, and she's a tough fighter. She doesn't let fights slip away from her, really, at all. I mean, but I am a little concerned about her chin. Karolina Kowalkiewicz rocked her very, very momentarily. Nothing came out of that. Joanna still won the fight. She still put on a decisive performance and was able to defend after that little sort of slip up, so to speak, in that fourth round. But it was a bit of a scare. And if Andrade lands like that, Joanna is either going out or is about to go out, because Andrade will not let Joanna get away and recover. She will go after her until Joanna is asleep on the canvas. I'm pretty darn sure of that. So Joanna needs to keep her distance. She needs to put on a technical striking performance in this fight. If she does not do that, she will lose, because Andrade will have 25 minutes to knock her out, to land something big. And very well, as I said, she could do that. Her cardio is not even that bad. I'm talking about Andrade here. Most people, with the Angela Hill fight in February, we were concerned after the first round, can Andrade keep this pace up? Well, she could. She went 3 rounds, looked pretty good, and put on a great fight. Although that fight was closer than most people thought, so a little concerning, but nonetheless, I still think she can put on a good fight against the champ. You got to go Joanna champion here. I think it's going to be a striking affair. I don't expect this fight to go to the mat. Andrade does have a few wins by submission. I want to say 6-7, just looking at her percent on UFC.com, but I don't expect she will look to take Miocic down. I mean, now thinking about it, it does seem possible, but I think her best bet, as everyone would agree, I would assume, is knocking Joanna out. I'm going Miocic, though. There's not much more to say. She's undefeated for a reason. She's a very, very good talent in the UFC. But, knockout chance. I mean, Jessica Andrade has more than a puncher's chance. She's a very good fighter. She's a bull in the cage. She can bully Joanna to the title. It's a close matchup. I'm not going to call it a coin flip, because I am picking Miocic. I think she's a better fighter. I think she gets the win and retains her title for the 5th time. And still in the co-main event. That brings us to the main event of the evening. The heavyweight championship is on the line. The UFC heavyweight title of the world and the label baddest man of the planet on the planet. Although it still feels like Cain Velasquez is the baddest man on the planet. Like Stipe Miocic, as much as I love him as a fighter and a person, as cool as he is, he doesn't seem like the baddest man on the planet.
Tough to say, man. Velasquez is so injury prone, and he looked great his last time out. But
I'm not saying by the turn. I'm not saying Cain I still feel is the best heavyweight. That's not. I think he could be, but but again, injuries.
Heavyweight's a fuster, man. It's just heavyweight's just who the hell knows. For posterity's sake, because again, you failed. Wes Riddle picked Joanna Jędrzejczyk by decision. Also, I'll just get it out of the way now. We'll act like Wes is here. Wes, who are you picking for the thing? Oh, I'm going to pick Stipe Miocic. I think he's going to knock out Junior Dos Santos in the 2nd round. Thanks for your contributions, Wes. Appreciate it.
I said I was going to remember, and now you don't. You didn't
get away
to remember.
That's right, because you failed so frequently for us. So we're in this room.
I probably would have forgotten.
Exactly. And now I don't have to remember. It's done. Wipe my hands. I'm clear. But yeah, look, Stipe Miocic is the baddest man on the planet by the technical term. I'm picking Junior Dos Santos. I'm probably going to look like an asshole. I'm probably going to look like, I'm just saying it now right now. I think I'm going to look like an asshole. I think Stipe Miocic is going to knock him out. Probably is what's going to end up happening. But in my head, I don't know. There's a disconnect between how good Stipe Miocic is and how good I think he is. And I can't seem to merge the two at all. Because Stipe Miocic just doesn't excel at anything. And it's like, he's a very well-rounded, competent fighter. And he's not like historically great at any one facet of the game. And so it's hard for me to pick him. Like, I would pick Cain Velasquez to beat him. I'm picking Junior Dos Santos to beat him. And he would probably beat both of them because I'm an asshole. Like, that seems just to be the way it goes. To me, here's the fight. All right. I'll try and keep it brief. I know I've been really, really fucking wordy about some other shit, so I'll try and be quick here. They already fought before. It was a sensational fight. I think that both men have made improvements. I think Junior Dos Santos has declined physically since then, but I also think that he's made not more improvements, but improvements that are more important for this matchup. What I mean by that is Miocic has just improved his game all around. Like he's better at pressuring. He's still not a great pressure fighter. He's better at it. He's very good at countering now. That stepping left hand that he knocked out Verdum with, excellent. But he still gets hit a lot. He's still not defensively minded. It's okay because he's really tough, and in general, being really tough is like the predominant skill set to long-term success at heavyweight. Like, because the margins of error at heavyweight are so slim, just being a tougher bastard than the other guy you're fighting matters. Junior Dos Santos is one of the toughest bastards that's ever existed, but that was also before he had his soul taken twice by Cain Velasquez. Like, you can only be so tough after taking a sustained 50 minutes of getting your head caved in. And that's why, we've seen him now taking a lot more punishment, got knocked out by Alistair Overeem. But I do think he's improved technically. I think he registers that he can no longer just rely on being tough. He's still not super defensively minded, really, but what he is, he's much better with his footwork. And I think that matters a lot because Junior Dos Santos, historically, and the first time they fought, and basically for his whole career, is just a power puncher. Like, he's a guy with pretty good boxing, but mostly he's athletic and fast, really good timing, and a huge power. And excellent takedown defense, some of the best takedown defense in the world. Look, Cain Velasquez is a really good wrestler, and Cain Velasquez was teeing off on his head for 20 minutes and still couldn't take Junior down. Junior's a great defensive wrestler. So I don't think Miocic can take him down. This is a striking affair. In their previous fight, Miocic still had success by backing JDS back up because he's very susceptible to that. He gets backed up against the cage. He's much less threatening offensively. And it's easier to navigate the type of tools he brings. Now, JDS is much better about being an outfighter, using his tools, using his craft, and sticking at distance, landing shots, letting his power carry from there instead of just hoping to hit somebody coming in. I think that'll serve him well if he ever fights Cain Velasquez again. I'll still obviously pick Cain. But in this fight, I don't think Miocic is good enough at pressuring to consistently cut the cage on him. I think JDS is going to be able to hang at range more. I think he's going to be able to catch Miocic coming in, because Miocic still, when he comes in, isn't defensively inclined. Call me crazy. I'm probably an asshole and insane. Miocic is probably going to get hurt and then blitz JDS, but I'm picking JDS by knockout middle of the fight. I'll say the third round. Yeah, that's where I'm going. I could be wrong. Who the hell knows? I'm excited for the fight, though. I think it's one of the better heavyweight contests you can make right now.
Give me Stipe Miocic in this fight. Junior Dos Santos is not the same man that fought Stipe back in December 2014 in Phoenix, Arizona. UFC on Fox 13 main event. Nor is Stipe. JDS has gotten arguably worse. Stipe has for sure, guaranteed, gotten much, much better. I think the striking is closely equal. Dos Santos at one point was the best heavyweight boxer in the UFC, one of arguably the best boxer in the UFC. I'm not so sure that's the case now. I think fighters have gotten better in the striking and particularly the boxing department. I think Dos Santos has largely remained the same, if not declined physically and whatnot. Stipe, one guy that falls under that category is Stipe. Miocic has gotten a lot better on the feet. He's very well-rounded. His wrestling game is good. His striking game is very good. He prefers to stand, but can go to the ground if need be. And that could be his game plan come Saturday. I mean, Junior Dos Santos, why stand with the guy when, especially at heavyweight, when he has a decent chance of clipping you and maybe putting you away? If he wants to make this an easier night's work, he should probably look for the takedowns against JDS. I don't necessarily think he'll do that. I think he could mix in a few takedowns here and there, but I think this will, for the most part, be a stand-up fight like the first outing. But as I said, Stipe, though, is a much better striker than he was 2.5 years ago, and I think that'll be a key in this fight. I think he could even outstrike Dos Santos. Dos Santos has been super inactive. That's a big red flag. He's getting up there in age, which really means nothing for actually. This is why this is so weird and why MMA is weird and the heavyweight division is weird. Junior Dos Santos is a younger man than Stipe Miocic. He has been on this earth for less time than Stipe Miocic. That is insane. Of course, that means nothing. Fight years, Stipe Miocic is about 18. Dos Santos is about 100. Stipe is much, much, much more fresh than Dos Santos. Dos Santos, his chin is going down. We saw him get knocked out by Overeem a year and a bit ago. His win over Ben Rothwell, he looked actually really good in that fight. But that was also Ben Rothwell, not Stipe Miocic. Very, well, A, different style matchup, and B, level of competition difference as well. And also C, that was a year and a month ago. So I don't know how Junior Dos Santos will look. I think he'll look good, but I don't think he'll look great. Stipe is on the winning streak of his life right now, coming off wins over Overeem, Verdum, and before that, I believe it was Mark Hunt and one other, I forget, Arlovsky, the big win over the Pitbull. I think this is Stipe's fight to lose. I think he's going to get the job done on American turf, on American. I was about to say home soil, but that was last one against Overeem. Dos Santos, sure, he could land something big. He could knock Stipe Miocic out and reclaim the title. But Stipe has what I would imagine to be a hell of a chin. This guy, I mean, does one fighter having a massive head, does that mean necessarily that his chin is good? Not necessarily, but in this case, I really do think they sort of go hand in hand. This guy has a huge head, but also what I think to be a very, very durable chin. I don't see Miocic getting knocked out. I think he can take some of Dos Santos's.
You're right, man. You're absolutely right, because Stefan Struve didn't knock him out. So JDS, the biggest hitter of all time, can't.
Let's be honest. Maybe chins don't involve. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but that Stefan Struve loss was also what 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
I don't think Miocic has a great chin. I think his chin's good. I think he's really tough and really durable, but he gets cracked. I mean, look, had Overeem not gone for a guillotine, very possible that Miocic is not the champion right now. Like, extremely possible.
You're right. Maybe, yeah. Maybe he doesn't have a good chin. I just, I look at him and think, this guy has a fantastic chin. This guy can take anything. But yeah, now that you bring up those examples, Struve, I don't know how much to put into that. I put very little into that, as most people should, especially skill-wise. But chin, I mean, it's not like chins necessarily get better. No,
they don't.
There is one situation, I can't think of it, but one UFC fighter has gotten so much, his chin has somehow improved. I don't remember. Maybe I'm totally bullshitting my audience here and pulling that out of nothing.
The thing is, I don't know who you're talking about, but the thing is, I don't like Miocic doesn't have a bad chin. It's heavyweight, and everybody can hit really hard. The margins are slim. I think he's extremely tough, and that those two are not the same thing. Like we were talking about earlier, Eddie Alvarez, I don't think he's got a great chin. He gets buzzed a lot, but he's impossibly tough, and he's got great cardio, so he comes back from getting buzzed. I think similarly, like Mark Hunt had a great chin. It was just hard to hurt him. It's not particularly difficult to hurt Miocic, but it is hard to finish him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is true, because Miocic, he finds a way. He gets knocked down by Overeem, but yes, Overeem probably shouldn't have gone for the guillotine, as you said, and as I believed, and most people believe. But he did recover fairly quickly, and he took Dos Santos's shots in the first round, didn't go down, and then there's the other example. I forget what. Stefan Struve. Well, he did go down in that one. I just think Stipe Miocic is a better athlete. I think he's the more well-rounded fighter at this point. He's the fresher guy, as I said. He's fight years way more younger. Dos Santos just does not have much left in the tank. He doesn't deserve the title shot. He's on a 13-month layoff with a win over Ben Rothwell. It's heavyweight. Anything can happen. If Dos Santos knocks out Stipe, I would be surprised. But looking back, it'd be like, all right, this guy's a great striker and it's heavyweight. How surprised really should I be? But Stipe Miocic, this guy puts everything together right now. It's his time to shine or continue shining, I should say. I like Miocic to get it done. I don't trust JDS's chin at all. Give me Stipe Miocic by TKO in the, let's go third round. Miocic midway through the fight, third round knockout to retain the UFC Heavyweight Championship. And despite Cain Velasquez being the baddest man, the title of baddest man on the planet.
I just realized, I guess I should also, I do always like to make this declaration just to do it. My personal jiu-jitsu coach, Juan Chicao Carnero, he is one of the coaches for JDS. He is with him in Dallas right now. So take that for what it's worth. If you're banking on my picks for some particular reason, I do have some tangible connections here that could be influencing my decision-making process.
Well, let's move on. We have 2 more things left to cover. We have our DraftKings teams, and we have our performance and fight of the night bonuses. Let's go with the bonuses first. Do we have Wes's bonuses? I don't know if he provided them to us.
I do have what? Wes never did end up giving us his bonuses. What a dick. I'll see if I can get him. I'll see if I can get him while we run over the rest of this stuff.
Last time we talked to him, though, he was in a conference and secretly on his phone, so don't bank on anything.
He said he was out of his conference at like 5:30. So hopefully,
you know what? You're right.
So hopefully he'll be able to get
Buffalo Wild Wings with his phone dead or something like that. Just to our, for our luck, he's probably in that situation right now. But we will continue. After you message him, I would like you to give out your bonuses.
We're historically bad at picking bonuses anyway, so it's fine if he doesn't get in. As far as bonuses go, I think there are a lot of really good contenders for fight of the night here. I like to go with main events because 5 rounds is more than 3, so that, like we saw it last event, Artem Lobov, Cub Swanson, nobody thought that was going to be it, and still 5 rounds, just it makes for a more interesting fight most of the time. That being said, Frankie Aguirre Rodriguez, Dustin Poirier, Eddie Alvarez, like those can be great fights as well. I'm going to stick with one of the championship fights. I'm going to say Miocic versus Andrade because I think that's likely to go the full 5 and could be very exciting. So that's my fight of the night pick. As far as performances, I feel zero confidence in the performances and night picks at all. I've picked Dustin Poirier to knock out Eddie Alvarez. I think if he does that, he's going to get a bonus. So that's a pick for me. And I picked JDS as my other bonus because I think he's going to get a stoppage over Miocic. But I've put no confidence behind either of those picks.
My fight of the night is going to go to Jason Knight versus Chad Skelly.
Oh, okay.
A bit out of left field, I know. Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier could get it. The main event, co-main event, Edgar Rodriguez. There are a lot of options for fight of the night on this card, and that's what makes this card fantastic. But I think the fight of the night would go to Chad Skelly, Jason Knight. I think that's going to be an amazing, amazing matchup between 2 guys that could find themselves in the top 15 sooner than later. My performances, I have 3 guys that stand out among the rest. Now, it all really comes down to, well, Damian Maia for sure is one of the 2. And then I'm having a tough time between Stipe Miocic and, wait for it, Godzimirad Antigulov. My thoughts here, the reason I'm considering giving it to Antigulov is the fact that I think he will starch Christensen early, probably in the first round, and Miocic could take a couple rounds at the very least to finish JDS, and it's not even a given that he does finish JDS. So I'm going to go Antigulov. Why the hell not? I'll look smart if I get it right, and if I don't, then it's not a big deal.
So wait, who'd you pick then? You picked Antigulov and
Maia, Antigulov, and then Skelly Knight.
I wasn't sure if you had actually picked Maia or were just saying you did like him as an option.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Maia was my for sure pick. You missed that. All right, DraftKings teams. Read out Wes's and then yours.
Wes's DraftKings team is Junior Dos Santos, Damian Maia, Antigulov, Godzirimov, Antigulov, Jessica Andrade, James Vick and Eddie Alvarez. My team, I got to say, I think this is probably the week I lose my DraftKings crown here. I've been putting the wood to y'all since I joined the team. But I don't feel super great about anybody. It was a really tough lineup for me to pick this week. I ended up with Flash Gordon, Ioanni Jacek, Christoph Jocko, Demian Maia, Dustin Poirier, Yair Rodriguez. Frankly, like, there are a lot of those fights I'm not even confident on. Like, I'm not super confident on Poirier or Maia or Jacek. Like, so it could be really bad. We'll see what happens there. What about you, Nick? Who do you have for your DraftKings team?
My DraftKings team, let me find it here. It goes like this. Jason Knight, Damian Maia, Dustin Poirier, Christoph Jotko, Ioanni Jacek, and Stipe Miocic.
Ooh, that could be the winning lineup right there.
It will for sure be the winning lineup.
Well, I don't think you've won one of the DraftKings yet, so if it is, good on you.
The time is now, my friend.
Maybe you're starting a winning tradition.
Absolutely. I want to quickly say my team initially, before Sergio Pettis Cejudo was canceled, and I'm more happy with what I have now than this. But just for fun, I had Stipe, Joanna, Maia. I had Sergio Pettis, Antigulov, and Jason Knight. So the changes there were Poirier and Jotko in for Pettis and Antigulov. Who do you, super briefly, just give me a name and maybe a couple of sentences, not 5 minutes. Who do you have between Pettis and Cejudo?
I was going to pick Cejudo, but I thought the odds were way off. I thought Pettis had an actual decent chance of winning it. It came down to wrestling. Cejudo hasn't used his a ton in the UFC. Pettis still not a great defensive wrestler. Cejudo's an Olympic gold medalist. If they stayed striking, I think Pettis was going to chew him up, though. I think Sergio Pettis might end up being a better fighter than Anthony Pettis. He's likely not going to, get the same.
He's not going to have his own Wheaties box.
Yeah, he's not going to have a Wheaties box. I don't think he'll be champion, although he is so young in that division. It's possible.
He could be. Johnson's not going to be around forever. He absolutely could be. But Ray Borg there as well. A lot of young guys.
He could, but like, I don't think you wouldn't put money feeling good that he's going to. But I do think that he's already does a lot of things better than his brother does. He's not as dynamic as his brother. Like, that was the thing about Anthony Pettis. Pretty Tony was one of the most potent offensive forces we've ever seen in fighting. Like, he was so good when he was allowed to do the offense he wanted to, but he's also so bad when people take him out of his comfort zone. Sergio is much better at that second part. Like, he's much better at adapting, at not getting pressured. His footwork's better. I think he could end up being a better all-around fighter than his brother. I was close to betting him. I was honestly, because the lines were really off, and if Cejudo just didn't wrestle him, like, he was going to lose. And Cejudo hasn't wrestled a lot in his career, so I would have picked Cejudo because it's the smart one. But I thought Pettis had a chance.
Yeah, I actually was picking Pettis going in. Initially, I had Cejudo, but switched earlier in the week. Figured he'd be able to keep it standing, but of course, Cejudo's wrestling was a big factor. But glad I don't have to pick that one. Just another close fight that I'd probably be wrong in, and decrease my chances of becoming the DraftKings champion and the pick champion and everything like that. So, anyways, I think that does it for episode 67 of Before the Battle. Let's see how long we've been going on. We've been going on for 2 hours and about a minute. So, what do you know? Jed and I like to talk. We did that here on episode 67. I hope you guys enjoyed. We actually had more listeners than usual. We still have 7 going, and we're closing the show. We had 9, I think. So
that's what happened. That's what happens when you give me a platform. You kicked me off the circus. Now you're gonna feel regret. Look what's happening.
Yeah, when the fans see no W / guest co-host Jed Meshew, the ratings go down. They don't even click the episode.
Look, next time Wes isn't here, you get Andrew Lawrence on here, and I will verbally assault him.
You know what? We're gonna do that. Absolutely. Okay. I will force the clown kid. I don't care what he says, but he is going to do the show one way or another, because I cannot wait for that. Jed Meshew and Andrew Lawrence on the same podcast. That'll be fantastic. But I still think my idea of me not doing the MMA circus for a week and you filling in with talking with Andrew for 2 hours, I still think that's a fantastic idea. But, my what's the word? I'm greed. My greed comes in. I want to be there when this happens, so can't do the MMA circus without me. Anyways, that's it for the before the battle. Thank you guys for listening. Jed, it's a pleasure as always, sort of, kind of, maybe, arguably. Let people know where they can find you, where they can find your writing, where they can find your podcast, and everything else you got to plug.
You can find my writing every day at MMAfighting.com. You can find me on Twitter at Jed Meshew. You probably already know that if you're watching this, but if not, give me a follow. Everything else flows through there. My podcast, we just dropped our most recent episode. I do it with the Naked Gambler, Twitter MMA personality. We talked all about UFC 211, about Cejudo pulling out. We're pretty confident that his story about his hand injury is fake and that he actually injured his hand masturbating too aggressively. It's a common thing in the higher levels of MMA, and the media won't talk about it, but we will. So that's the type of stuff you can expect from us there. We are also planning on doing an immediate post-fight show for UFC 211, he and I. So keep it locked onto our Twitter, and we will update you there. But yeah, as always, it was a pleasure. Sad West wasn't here, but we'll see him next. Are we going to do one for Bellator next week?
We should.
Probably. It's a big Bellator card. I think we should. So I'll see you next week, Nick. We'll have Wes or maybe Andrew Lawrence. Hell, maybe we'll have both, and it'll just be a party. Who knows? But it was a pleasure. I enjoyed it, man.
Yes, sir. All right. You guys can find me on the Twitter, as always, at NickUFC. Always down to chat about mixed martial arts or anything else you would like to discuss. But, of course, the usual disclaimer. I know nothing about anything besides face punching. So test my knowledge. Maybe I'll pull something out of the hat, but probably not. I'll probably disappoint the hell out of you and depress you. So, whatever. I don't know how to put this, but tweet me at your own risk. Don't blame me if you become incredibly depressed. Now that that's out of the way, you can find my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. That's also where you can find my podcast. I do not host it with Jed Meshew, despite what Jed says, or despite what the titles say for the past few weeks. Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence did make his return to the show. We also had Mike Biggie Rhodes on the program, former co-host of this show and former guest as well. Great episode 110 of the MMA Circus. Go check it out. It's on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Google Play, and of course, bloodyelbow.com. Go check out I did a opinion piece on Justin Gaethje a couple days back. It was published, I want to say 2 days ago, just on why I think Edson Barboza is the fight to make, why Gaethje should be pushed quickly and not built up slowly like they do with some of their bigger signings, why Gaethje usually, I do like guys being built up slowly, but I do think Justin Gaethje is an exception. So go check out that. Also an interview piece with Tyson Nam from the MMA Circus a week or two back. I'll have more interview pieces out soon. I think that's it, guys. Thank you very much for listening in. As always, I hope you guys enjoy the fights. We're out.
Peace.